The opposition which Paul and Barnabas gave to this schismatical notion, which engrossed salvation to the Jews, now that Christ has opened the door of salvation to the Gentiles, they had no small dissension and disputation with them. They would by no means yield to this doctrine, but appeared and argued publicly against it. As faithful servants of Christ, they would not see his truths betrayed. They knew that Christ came to free us from the yoke of the ceremonial law, and to take down that wall of partition between Jews and Gentiles and unite them both in himself, and therefore could not bear to hear of circumcising the Gentile converts, when their instructions were only to baptize them. The Jews would unite with the Gentiles, that is, they would have them to conform in everything to their rites, and then, and not till then, they will look upon them as their brethren, and no thanks to them. But, this not being the way in which Christ designed to unite them, it is not to be admitted. As spiritual fathers to the Gentile converts, they would not see their liberties encroached upon. They had told the Gentiles that if they believed in Jesus Christ they should be saved, and now to be told that this was not enough to save them, except they were circumcised and kept the law of Moses, this was such a discouragement to them at setting out, and would be such a stumbling block in their way, as might almost tempt them to think of returning into Egypt again, and therefore the apostles set themselves against it. The expedient pitched upon for preventing the mischief of this dangerous notion, and silencing those that vented it, as well as quieting the minds of the people with reference to it. They determined that Paul and Barnabas, and some others of their number, should go to Jerusalem to the apostles and elders, concerning this doubt. Not that the church at Antioch had any doubt concerning it, they knew the liberty wherewith Christ had made them free, but they sent the case to Jerusalem. Because those who taught this doctrine came from Jerusalem, and pretended to have directions from the apostles there to urge circumcision upon the Gentile converts, it was therefore very proper to send to Jerusalem about it, to know if they had any such direction from the church there. And it was soon found to be all wrong, which yet pretended to be of apostolical right. It was true that these went out from them, v. 24, but they never had any such orders from them. Because those who were taught this doctrine would be the better confirmed in their opposition to it, and in the less danger of being shocked and disturbed by it, if they were sure that the apostles and elders at Jerusalem, which was the Christian church that of all others retained the most affection to the law of Moses, were against it, and, if they could but have this under their hands, it would be the likeliest means to silence and shame these incendiaries, who had pretended to have it from them. 3. Because the apostles at Jerusalem were fittest to be consulted in a point not yet fully settled, and being most eminent for an infallible spirit, peculiar to them as apostles, their decision would be likely to end the controversy. It was owing to the subtlety and malice of the great enemy of the church's peace, as it appears by Paul's frequent complaints of these Judaizing teachers, these false apostles, these deceitful workers, these enemies of the cross of Christ, that it had not this effect. Their journey to Jerusalem upon this errand, v. 3. Where we find that they were honored at parting, they were brought on their way by the church, which was then much used as a token of respect to useful men, and is directed to be done after a godly sort, 3 and 6. Thus the church showed their favor to those who witnessed against these encroachments on the liberties of the Gentile converts, and stood up for them. That they did good as they went along. They were men that would not lose time, and therefore visited the churches by the way. They passed through Phenice and Samaria, and as they went declared the conversion of the Gentiles, and what wonderful success the gospel had had among them, which caused great joy to all the brethren. Note, the progress of the gospel is and ought to be a matter of great joy. All the brethren, the faithful brethren in Christ's family, rejoice when more are born into the family, for the family will be never the poorer for the multitude of its children. In Christ in heaven there is portion enough, and inheritance enough for them all. Their hearty welcome at Jerusalem, v. 4. The good entertainment their friends gave them, they were received of the church, and of the apostles and elders, were embraced as brethren, and had audience as messengers of the church at Antioch. They received them with all possible expressions of love and friendship. The good entertainment they gave their friends, they declared all things that God had done with them, gave them an account of the success of their ministry among the Gentiles, not what they had done, but what God had done with them, what he had by his grace in them enabled them to do, and what he had by his grace in their hearers enabled them to receive. As they went they had planted, as they came back they had watered, but in both they were ready to own it was God that gave the increase. Note, it is a great honor to be employed for God, to be workers for him, for those that are so have him a worker with them, and he must have all the glory. 6. The opposition they met with from the same party at Jerusalem, v. 5. When Barnabas and Paul gave an account of the multitude of the Gentiles, and of the great harvest of souls gathered into Christ there, and all about them congratulated them upon it, there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees, who received the tidings very coldly, and, though they believed in Christ, yet were not satisfied in the admission of these converts, but thought it was needful to circumcise them. Observe here, 1. That those who have been most prejudiced against the gospel yet have been captivated by it, so mighty has it been through God to the pulling down of strongholds. When Christ was here upon earth, few or none of the rulers and of the Pharisees believed on him, but now there are those of the sect of the Pharisees who believed, and many of them, we hope, in sincerity. 2. That it is very hard for men suddenly to get clear of their prejudices. Those that had been Pharisees, even after they became Christians, retained some of the old leaven. All did not so, witness Paul, but some did, and they had such a jealousy for the ceremonial law, and such a dislike of the Gentiles, that they could not admit the Gentiles into communion with them, unless they would be circumcised, and thereby engage themselves to keep the law of Moses. This was, in their opinion, needful, and for their parts they would not converse with them unless they submitted to it.